Good morning, David.
Good morning, Nadira.
Is there a career path for risk professionals?
Informally, yes. I think as an established practice across internationally and globally, perhaps not. Because it's quite a young discipline. Really, in modern management, we've only had risk management understood as a discipline since the late 1970s, early 1980s. And initially it was seen as a technical analysis role to be done by technical specialists and people at the working level. And even more recently, we've started to think about enterprise risk management, managing the risk across the whole enterprise, and about using risk management at senior management levels to set strategy in the ways that we've talked about in other questions in this series. So it's a very young discipline. And so people like myself have become risk specialists by accident, really, just being in the right place at the right time and having opportunities and taking those opportunities and pushing forward. My career hasn't followed a structured career path because I've been in at the beginning and it's developed as it's developed. But now for young people, I think if you're interested in risk, there is a kind of informal path that you can follow. There are degrees in risk management, undergraduate degrees, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, in different types of risk management. So in enterprise risk management or in financial risk or environmental risk or safety risk, you can specialize in these areas in your training and education. And then in terms of starting your career in risk management, there are generally two routes into that. One is coming from an academic education with a degree or a master's in risk management formally and you start your career. Or you come up through the technical ranks of being a great engineer or a great designer or a great manager, a great marketing person, and then you move into risk management as a development of that. So where do you start as your career as a risk manager? Usually it's in quite a junior position, so we would talk about risk analysts or risk administrators who are responsible for maintaining the data that comes out of a risk process, updating databases, keeping a risk library, making sure that meetings happen on time, or the very sort of basic mechanics of the risk process. You might have a risk coordinator or a risk administrator at that level. And then you would maybe progress to be a risk champion or a risk facilitator where you take responsibility either for a group of projects or for a function within an organization or a department where you are taking responsibility for facilitating the whole process. Yes. So you would have a champion a coordinator or administrator just doing the mechanics of keeping things moving along. You would have a champion or a facilitator who is then taking responsibility to facilitate the process. Above that, you get increasing levels of scope of authority or scope of responsibility. So maybe you might start being a risk champion or facilitator for one or two small projects or for a sub-area of a department or a function. And then you would progress to larger, more complex projects or programs or to the whole department. And then above that, we have roles as a chief risk officer or an enterprise risk manager responsible for the whole enterprise risk management function. These are well designated and defined roles, but still there is no clear defined career path that says to get from this level to this level you need this amount of experience, these skills, these qualifications. It still is rather ad hoc and sort of informal, unformed or unstructured. So I think we can see the sorts of levels that we would expect people to go through, an initial interest either technically or educationally, starting at the bottom as a coordinator or administrator, progressing to taking responsibility for the process, then taking more and more responsibility for larger areas, and eventually heading a risk function, either as the chief risk officer on a board or the enterprise risk manager for the function. But how you progress is something we're still thinking about. There are a number of risk qualifications and certifications that are available. Again, nothing which is the one globally recognized route of things to do. So it is very much up to the individual to have their own vision, their own career path in mind, and really still, I think at this stage, to make it happen yourself by getting the necessary certification or developing the necessary knowledge and skills and competencies, and then seeking out the opportunities at the next level. In terms of a structured, well-recognised career path, I think the answer is not yet.
Thank you, David. We appreciate this opportunity of sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.